funny thing. I was in Vancouver one trip, and I had a conversation with someone about meditation, life, spirituality, having a practice in general. And we got onto the topic of bliss, and this individual was telling me how he dislikes bliss. He dislikes the sensation of bliss. It's not gritty enough for him. And I thought that was really interesting. So then I've often wondered how many other people share that same point of view. And I understand where he's coming from. This idea of needing a little bit more like that. Do you know what I mean? Just sometimes we can get misunderstood by this quality or by this experience of bliss and see it as being just white puffy clouds all the time with blue sky above it and blue sky below it. But really, this is not the case. The concept of bliss is that which is enabling the individual to experience life through an avenue of truth. So seeing the truth of it, which has a particular frequency, which we've just coined as being blissful. But then blissful and the experience of bliss is actually quite misunderstood. So we see it as white puffy clouds, we see it as everything being perfect, but it's much, much more than that. So for him, the grittiness of life still exists. This is the beauty of it, is that all experiences still exist. No matter where you are on the spectrum of realization, we're still subject to that which you must go through. But the perspective, the holding on, the ability to let go, all of that is what begins to change, which constitutes the bliss. Yes. Oh yeah, very good. Oh, very good.
So could that be something that's sort of lost in translation? Like Ananda always is translated as bliss to our language, but is that Sanskrit word something that has maybe a wider meaning in its original context?
I believe that it's misunderstood not even from the word, but just from the lack of experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where the misunderstanding comes in. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And there's phases, definitely, as you deepen on a spiritual practice and into a meditation, there's phases that you go through where there's sustained levels of sensory experience, where you hit a stride and it's like nothing can break this stride. In the physical posture practice, it happens. You hit a certain point within your body where the body feels free and open and you're no longer stiff. No matter what you do, no matter how strong the practice, the body, this doesn't produce any stiffness. And it can last for days, for months, for years. It can last forever. But typically it doesn't last quite forever. So there's this ebbing and flow of the experience. But likewise, for these sensations produced by bliss, it's an element of development that's part of a larger piece of the puzzle. Continuously larger and larger pieces of the puzzle, which house all of the smaller details that we experience on the day-to-day. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was right, because the grittiness of life is no longer seen as that. It is just simply an experience which is occurring. The sensation within it actually begins to change. Do you guys know what I mean? Like, for instance, what do you feel right now? Anyone just want to toss out what they feel as a sensation? Yeah.
During a podcast we did today, that conversation came up, and I was talking about how my experience before in my mind was bliss meant not caring about it.
Mm-hmm.
But through my experience, it is caring, but it's caring in that it's okay. So no matter what's going on, if emotionally I'm upset or whatever, but it's okay to be upset and just let it happen. And then that's what I feel bliss is. Just being okay with it.
So then, which would lead into going through a spectrum of sensation within that same experience. And this is what meditation offers, is the ability to go through a spectrum. And it manifests generally first within the body as not feeling so comfortable when you sit. But when you sit for long enough and frequently enough, then those sensations begin to shift from discomfort into feeling strength, and then from strength into feeling the subtleties of love and kindness. These are one steps within the sensations of meditation. And then feeling bliss is another stage. But it's a spectrum. It goes from one to the next, to the next, to the next. So being able to see that and allowing it to change, being okay with it, this is the whole process. Not only within meditation, but also within life. This is why relationships generally get better in time. If everyone can just surrender a little bit and let go and become part of the flow rather than attempting to decide which direction the flow should go. So I wonder, what is this direction component? This is actually a really good topic to talk about in relation to meditation. Yes. This hot seat's really working out. There's more questions.
I was wondering what happens if you question the direction, or like, are you supposed to always accept the flow that you're going with?
In meditation specific, or just meditation in general?
I guess generally.
To question is really important, because ideally we're not becoming completely passive in our approach. We must be engaged within the process, because like what Luke was saying, sometimes this concept of surrender and letting go can also be a bit this aloof and who cares sort of an attitude, as like just an easy go-to. So it's a way for us to not engage with the world around us. So to question whether or not you're going the right way is important. But what's equally as important is to hear the answer, accept the answer, and then act on that. And that's usually what happens a lot of times, is we actually receive clear instruction, but then we do not act on the clear instruction. And then we say, oh, well, I'm just surrendering. And then that's when the argument begins. You know what I mean? And it happens in the flow of life, but it happens also in the flow of meditation as well. So meditation is kind of like the training ground to strengthen the intuition component of who we are, which in a sense is that off-glowing experience of the soul. So if we can engage with that intuition and communicate with it in such a way that it seamlessly can enter into our lives with less and less effort required, meaning that our resistance is decreasing, because really that's what this letting go component is all about, or the surrender is not surrendering to all of the tides that are continuously changing, but surrendering to the constant that's deep inside of us, because that's really who you are. We do not want anyone to tell us what to do, even though we love it when someone can just tell us what to do, but then someone tells us and we're like, well, I'm not going to do that. So it's like this inner mechanism that has to become very, very strong from the inside. And that's the surrender. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Any other?
Oh, no, I'll leave the hot seat.
No, it's fine. See, it's very comfortable. Staying there for a long, long time. So then what is the direction? I think that's what we were talking about. And what is this flow? What is that? Anyone want to just engage with an answer? Yes, sir.
I know that the way I've always pictured it when I was sitting in meditation was it's almost kind of like you're sitting in a stream, and thoughts were like fish or other things that drifted by, and you were able to see them. You could kind of pick them up and look at them, observe them, and you just let them go. So I feel like the stream is where your flow is naturally meant to go. Well, if we go with the sattvic sense, that's where the intelligence flows. It's just people get distracted by the fish, is the way that I see it.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Fish are very colorful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for an answer, that's the answer that I see anyways.
I like that. So it's true. So then if I can just summarize, you're saying that the natural intelligence is putting you in the right direction. And there's little shiny things floating around everywhere that catch our attention, that pull us into many different directions.
Absolutely.
Very good. Good. I would agree with you. I would agree with you completely that life is like that. I think that we could probably all agree. Life is like that. And always the question is, well, what is the intelligence? How do I connect to it? Where is the flow? Where is it going? All these unknown components is really what catch us. And we want to know, so therefore we hold on to all of the knowns. And generally the knowns are already expired. It's past tense and we have to keep going. Because once we realize, then we move on. Self-realization is continuation of continuation of continuation. So once we know. So then we can just simply move on. And that ability to hold and then release, hold and then release, really becomes an art form when it comes to the experiences of your mind, when it comes to the art and practice of meditation. So we need a very specific type of concentration produced by ourselves. Yeah, come on in, no problem. Very specific type of concentration. But at the same time, we need a very specific form of surrender. And these two have to be able to communicate with each other. So a complete surrender and release, and at the same time an absolute, almost austere-like concentration that no matter what, I'm not moving for this period of time. And for me, I got to this place with my meditation that I could actually have just been gone. Which sounds strange, maybe at first, But if that was my last day on the planet, I was actually quite happy with that. And I was 21 years old. And every day that I would sit, this connection to something which was still a part of me, but a higher form of myself, would get stronger and stronger. And the hold and relationship on my body would get less and less. And for me, that was a marker that meditation truly works. Because the more I connected to this deep sensation of well-being, of balance, of contentment, the more I was willing to surrender. The more that I was willing to surrender, the stronger the flow of energy would be produced within my body, and simultaneously, the increasingly more still my mind would become. So that then there became this perfect balance for my meditation of engagement, completely alert, but also completely surrender, willing to relinquish my body at any moment if, the powers that be asked me to. So that was an interesting sensation. Very interesting. Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what do you say to that? What do you guys think? So for me, bliss is a nice thing. I very much enjoy bliss. Bliss is something that has been placed in front of my path as a staple focal point and a tool to be used to remove obstacles. And you can all use it as well. This concept of bliss within your own personal practice. Making way for the decisions, making way for the clarity, making way for the harmony that is produced by its particular vibration. So let's not even think of it as a sensation per se, but more so a vibration, a state of being. So that then what is left in its path simply dissolves in the most sweet and kind way. Dissolves. Because typically what is surfacing within a meditation is frustration, is anger, is sadness, is annoyance, is discomfort. Would you agree or disagree? On one level or another. And this is not negative things. Let's not think of it as being negative. Let's just think of it as being the truth. So the truth of the matter is that what comes up typically is all the things that we do not really care about or care to see. But on the back end, we actually care the most about it. That's why it's still there. This is the trick. This is the trickiness and complexity of your mind. You say one thing and you do another. Again, and it's on repeat. So what the process of meditation is doing is it's revealing to you what's on the back end. Like, actually, this is what you mean when you're sitting in meditation. This is what you mean. This is what you mean. This is actually what you're saying to yourself. And initially people look at that and be like, oh, well, I'm not meditating. I can't sit still. My mind is not still. My mind is too busy. But in reality, the mind is actually producing for you exactly what you need to see. So then we can make a decision. Well, what do you do with that? What do you want to do with that? Let's say that you no longer want it. So if we no longer want it, then what do you do? What do you do with something that you no longer need? You just simply don't use it any longer, put it down, put it away, put it to rest, walk away, move away, don't talk to that individual, whatever it may be. Yes.
Sometimes for me in meditation, things will come up that are pretty mundane, like, to solve this little problem in life, you should do this, or you should phone your brother, or something like that, like just little things like that. And at first, maybe it's easy to look at those things and be like, that's not meditation, that's engaging with mundane thoughts, these fish that float by or whatever. But I think I've sort of come to appreciate those things, because usually it's the right thing to do. And the more I follow those things, the richer life seems to get.
That's right.
And it's very little things, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's the solution.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the medicine that's necessary in order to calm your mind down. So the mind is agitated and active because there's unresolved some things that are occurring. So that's on the external of our reality and on the internal of our reality. So when we start to just simply listen to the only compass we have, like we only have really one compass. There's not multiple compasses given out and you can choose which one you want. You just got one. And oftentimes we feel that, well, my compass isn't strong enough. But really, it is more than strong. It's for you. It is the one. So those little things that pop up within the meditation, if you decide to act on it, then all of a sudden you're just cleaning up that little spot, which means you don't even want to be looking at it any longer, or you don't want to be using it, so you're just putting it down and then moving on. And that is a process. That's a cleanup process, which is considered to be Kriya, right? So Kriya yoga is yoga of action. And within the Kriya, there is cleansing occurring. So if you are relatively young within your meditation practice, meaning 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, up to 10 years old, well then you could still be in the cleansing process if you haven't been going full on with it and making action. And it doesn't matter because the whole way through your life, there's little cleansings that have to happen anyways. So that initial byproduct is cleansing. And then the second is stabilizing and steadying. So if you've pretty much cleaned up all of those little things, now it's just becoming stable and enabling your vibration of meditation to go throughout the entire day, from morning to night, if you're really keen on developing a meditative mind, from morning to night, again and again and again, and you're catching yourself on the other end with a meditation. So you sit in the morning, and then see if you can sustain that, maybe with one short sit in the afternoon, 5 minutes, and then catch yourself at the end of the day for another sit. And then you close your eyes, and then continue on. So that balancing is, again, a part of a cleansing. So then what throws you off of the balance? And in the West, I know we have all kinds of interesting habits that we do and that we enjoy that may pull us off balance, or it may bring us onto balance. But the good thing is that it doesn't really matter, because if you sit in meditation long enough, all those things that are no longer good for you will just simply fall away. Especially if you can maintain the equanimity of balance from morning to night, morning, night, morning, night, morning, night, and then all through the night. So then it eventually becomes 24/7. Does that make sense? So some of the things that throw you off balance is not necessarily what you're eating or what you're drinking or so on and so forth. It's what you say, how you say it, what you listen to, what you decide not to listen to. These are also things that can move balance around. Eventually, over time, you can drink what you want, do what you want, say what you want. Equanimity is there. But let's maybe not jump the, whatever they call it, the gun. First 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. That was good. Very good. Does that make sense?
Maybe just to take it back to the original question about the flow, I feel like things like that draw you towards that flow, to take care of those little things, clean those little things up. That sort of just clears the path for things to flow more smoothly.
Yeah. So then it's joyously experiencing your life. So now again, this is heading back into these monks that you see, or these individuals that have been on this path for years and years and years and years and years, and nothing really phases them. They just kind of laugh, you know. They get a hole in their bucket and they think it's funny, or they don't get to eat for 4 days and it's all good. I mean, these kinds of things, because the going with the flow concept is becoming content with what you have and who you are and where you will be potentially, meaning this unknown concept, which is not an easy thing when we start to factor in family and friends and status and mortgages and retirement and Freedom 55. Oh, missed that one. Freedom 65. Oh my God, it's Freedom 75. All of these worries and concerns that people have. So to work on it from now, so no matter how young or how old you are, and just accepting, let's say, accepting the karma and then moving on. And this is a big component, accepting the karma and moving on, accepting the karma and moving on. So that what is meeting you face to face has already happened. So what to do with that when it's already happened? When you are an individual attempting to experience a reality. And that's the thing, you're an individual attempting to experience a reality within a collective setting. Which means as you scale it back, no one can do anything to you because you are an individual having an experience within a collective setting. So now you can decide how is it that you respond. You can decide what frequency you're going to vibrate at. You can decide all these things. And for a lot of time, we kind of think it's sort of fun to be dramatic. I kind of like to be dramatic. I like to tell stories, like tell stories that what has happened to me and get theatrical and move around. And I like that kind of stuff. But I also keep in check where I'm going. I'm very clear with what I'm feeling as the natural flow of my life, and I maintain it. No matter how much theater I produce, I'm still very clear that this is where I'm going. And then eventually I'll get disinterested in the theatrics and just become more simple and streamlined within my communication. And throughout this whole thing, Hajia keeps nodding, especially about this flow concept, because she is a Vedic astrologer, which all of you guys should actually get a reading. She is magic. You want to see clarity? Very good. She's very good. But this is the thing. When you look at the charts as well, so the stars, the star alignments are quite specific when you're born. And whether we know it or not, the stars play a huge role in our reality. They're energy, rocks, giant rocks, just sitting up there and emanating light towards this earth. And we feel it. Whether we know it or not, we actually feel it. The moon is a great example. Full moon, new moon, stuff happens. Who knew? Who knew that is a reality, that the moon is so strong that it changes the tides of a giant ocean? And the water that exists, or the fluids that exist inside of you. This is pretty powerful. But all planets do the same thing. So they're pushing and pulling and ebbing and flowing. And we down here are saying, I wonder why this is happening. But it's a part of nature. So to go with the flow with all that is occurring and just simply showing up. And like what Luke was saying, it's not about checking out. It's actually about checking in. It's about caring more so about what's occurring within the experience of your meditation, to the point where you realize that, oh yeah, nothing is supposed to be happening. Nothing is supposed to be happening right now. So therefore, this thought which is emerging is not supposed to be here, which means I must do something about this thought. Now, what is it that I must do with this thought? Is it on the external? Is it on the internal? Do I dissolve it? Do I put a bow on it? What is it that needs to be done? And once we get to that place, then we really hit a stride, the superhighway of meditative experience. Good. What else? Yes, sir. Come.
So I have a question about drama, in particular,
Yeah.
conflict and the flow. So if I find myself in a situation where I'm engaged in conflict, whether or not I want to be there or I don't want to be there, and for me personally, then the objective becomes to get through the conflict and back to bliss, what we're talking about, as quickly as possible. So with the flow in that, what is your advice for that experience?
Conflict, whether you like it or not, and subject to all kinds of emotions, experience it. Just simply experience it. This is the best way possible to move through anything. If you can get an emotion to actually pass through your body successfully, then you are able to let go of pretty much anything. Because that's what it needs to do. It just needs to communicate and disappear. Communicate, disappear. Communicate, disappear. But what happens is that we create a mesh like that. And this is memory. So we remember what it felt like to get hurt or to get bossed around or for someone to get angry at us or whatever it may be that causes conflict. And when that emotion begins to pass through, it pulls on all of these threads and gets caught. So then we have a flood of memory coming back, and then we get angry. And then this or that begins to happen, and then we can't let it go, and then 3 days go by and we're still furious. So the objective is to take full deep breaths, to posture the body very specifically. This is like on a day-to-day, eyes open, walking around. To practice, quite literally, emotions passing through you with good sensation, not attaching yourself to any of the good sensation. So that then you become very good at it, so that then when something which is not so great comes along, you're ready. And it can just pass through you again and again and again. So now the conflict that you're exposed to, why it's there, I don't know. The fact that it's there is the reality. And if choppiness surfaces often within your life, it could just be that you have to do very specific things within your life to counterbalance it. And you might already know what they are, or you have to become very acquainted so that then you can find out what those specific things are. It's kind of a science. Life is a science. Life is science. Science is actually born out of human inquiry. So therefore, embedded inside of you is that same mechanism, right? Everything is the same. Nature is nature. We have spring, autumn, fall, winter, inside as well as outside. All is the same. So to become scientific with yourself, no longer is it up to chance, no longer is it just fate, but really it is your level of engagement and your ability to balance and counterbalance that which is occurring. Buffer zone. Must have buffer zone. And great buffer zone is meditation. Yeah. Because then you see through it all. And if at first you don't succeed, you must try again. So you got to give this about a 30-year chance. There's no shortcuts. This is the thing. But after 30 years, if there's still no success, then come find me. And we can talk about it.
That's when we get the tea, right?
That's when you get tea. That's right. I will make you the best tea you've ever had. Sweetened or unsweetened, doesn't matter to me. What else?
So for me, when I was doing my meditations, it was a little bit longer. And one of
How
the best,
long was longer?
what was that?
How long was longer?
3 hours
Total.
total.
Yeah.
And then the 3-hour sits.
Yeah.
And it became like challenging just to have to force myself to be uncomfortable and then to go through that and then keep going and keep going. But what the big challenge was I would have like a sensation during the night and I'm like, oh, I had a great meditation. That was the best meditation. And the next day I would compare my last meditation to that meditation, which would cause this pull and this strife and like this frustration would keep coming up. And what finally not rid myself, but kind of opened it and allowed it to change is the fact that this is just going to be an endless process of constantly just doing it. And then rather than comparing to needing to be in a certain area, like I need to go from a 5 to a 7 and up to a 10, just I'm always at 10. I'm always at 1. I'm always a beginner. Like they say, the beginner's mind.
Yeah.
And then just relax and let it go. And then I got to experience just that present moment again instead of comparing. And like analogy I had for it was I was like skiing backwards. I was looking at everything in the past going past me, like, oh gosh, I hope I don't get hit by a tree, because that's all I see is going past me. Instead of now I can look forward and be like, no, this is what I want to have happen. I'm going to let what go past me go behind me.
Yeah.
And that was a good one for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where a lot of what mainstream talks about, the power of manifestation. So that begins to ring a lot of truth when the mind is clear, when the mind is calm, and when the mind is relaxed. And then it's further developed when what you are attempting to manifest is actually congruent with who you are and why you're here. So that just sole purpose. But what's funny is the sole purpose can actually look like it's changing, but really it's just evolving. As you go deeper, you are evolving. So going back to what you were saying, that is a common thing, to have an experience and then want to have it again tomorrow. I'm sure everyone has figured that one out, where you're sitting and you're just like sitting, and then all of a sudden you have just the most beautiful elation-like experience, and then the minute you say, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm actually having, and then it goes away like that. It disappeared. So then you just decide, well, next time I'm having that again, and then you're just leaning in, concentrating so hard. I did this, and then I did this, and then I did that, and then but it just keeps going. It won't give it back to you. But if you can soften and say, actually, this is perfect right now. Just right here is perfect. Just right here is perfect. This is actually perfection. Then mysteriously, it begins to evolve even past that elation which you experience into something that much more. And so the reason why I call all of this an art form is because then we must gain the ability to maintain intention at the same time. Because we are not actually, once we're sitting in a cave and just totally surrendering into the beauty of the eternity, we actually are engaged here and now in this world. You have lots of things that you're doing throughout your day. So it's enabling that mechanism which must do to take rest, and developing that mechanism which wants to advance you on a psycho-spiritual level, to have room to really make strides. And through the resting of that engaging mind, that engaging mind actually begins to mature through the influence of this evolutionary process within your being. So that then the two start to work as one entity, seeing life as being no different as meditation, and meditation as no different than life. So that then the two become one solid experience, so that there's no longer any division. And that's what creates the schism, is that there's division. There's division between what's fun and what's not fun. There's division between work and play. There's division between happy family and not happy family. So on and so forth. Going. So we must erase the line that says division. And we must join in the fun to all elements of your day. So even the least fun experience, you must engage it as an experience. If you wanted to take on this particular aspect of a practice. So all of a sudden, no fun becomes fun. Like my favorite game growing up was staring at a wall. So my friends would come over and they would think I'm the most boring person in the world. Because all I wanted to do was talk about deep topics and stare at the wall. I would be like, so come here. Now just look right there. Do you feel that? And they're just like, I'm going to go play with the car. But for me, playing with cars was not very engaging at all. And I would really attempt to do it and have fun. But it was very, very challenging. Same levels of challenge with them staring at a wall as me playing with cars. Because for me, I wasn't very good at just imagining reality. Imagining it as just like all of a sudden this whole world turns into something cool and fun. It was not for me. I was like, no, actually, this is real. I see something inside your mind. Do you want to talk about it? Therapy was my favorite game growing up. Recess time. I mean, this is not a digression into my own life, but recess time, I would like look at people and see, maybe this person needs help, maybe that person needs help. And then I would tell them, okay, so recess, I'll walk around the whole school park with you and you can just tell me whatever you want. We can talk about it. Funny. So for some people that would be boring. And for me it was engaging. But other things to me was boring. For others was engaging. And that's really the reality of life. There's things that we enjoy and things that we do not enjoy. But if you can see it as being no longer divided, but one and the same, and that which you are experiencing is just a sensation that you are subject to, now maybe you can remove yourself from that, or maybe you cannot. But if you cannot, then you must just accept it and then move on. Accept the karma, move on. Accept the karma, move on. Accept the karma, move on. And see what happens. But you must be very keen and aware that when it's time to move, you must move. Right? Does this make sense? This is meditation practice. Practice is eyes wide open, walking around, moving, walking, talking, engaging with the world. And this will make a lot more sense once we start to enter into chakra kriya, into chakra meditation practice. So after you've established a very strong base of meditation, meaning that you can clearly sit for an extended period of time, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, feeling relatively comfortable, where you can confidently say, yes, you feel your entire body relaxed within that seat. You can feel your breath confidently moving in and out of the body without much effort, and that your mind is stable. So these are all prerequisites for a chakra meditation to occur, because then the base is very strong. And it's that chakra meditation where we really get to engage with life, because the first stage of meditation is very much broad brush strokes of sweeping like this, the Sattva Ananda, so getting to this place of experiencing comfort, relaxation, clarity. But then the chakra meditation is very specific. So root chakra, Muladhara chakra, is speaking to a very specific function of your brain, of your mind. And when we meditate on that particular energetic point, it is invoking balance throughout that particular plane of consciousness, and then moving up, moving up, moving up the planes of your consciousness. So everything gets cleaned up there, no problem. But we got to get the bulk of the activity out of the way, so then you can see a clear reflection of yourself. When you close your eyes, you know that you're looking at yourself. Any questions, comments? Okay, let's sit. Sit comfortably, use as many cushions as you need to in order to invoke that comfort. Step 1 is comfort. Absolute and true. Keeping the eyes closed, let's bring full deep breaths into the body. Keeping the eyes closed, bring your gaze into the space just there in front of you. Softening the gaze, very slowly, gently, allow the eyes to open. Nice, very nice. So then to summarize, the activity within the mind is happening for a reason. It's there for you to do something with. And we're developing our intelligence and our intuition to aid in discerning what is it that we must do with that which is coming up within our meditation. Because meditation is constituting that nothing is occurring, it is just simply relaxed and still. So anything which is not of that quality, something is being requested. The second thing is that the experience of bliss is more of a state than a happening. So your particular consciousness level, it feels just very normal to you. This is the frequency that you're at. This bliss concept is like that as well. It's a particular frequency that you've attained, that life just simply operates within. So hints of somebody who is really attaining this concept of bliss is found in their day-to-day actions, not in how many times they say they feel blissed out. It's the day-to-day action experience. It's the way that they're engaging. Not they, it's the way that you engage with your reality. So the state of your being is based upon that. The original settings, the original experience is that bliss-like state. So if we follow the threads of all of our conversation that we've had tonight, it's that going with the flow is naturally going to that original state of experience, right? All rivers just simply flow back towards the ocean. So when we surrender ourselves, but with intelligence, but with understanding and wisdom, then we will flow directly back into that experience, that original state of being. Surrendering all of the patterns, surrendering all of the fragmentations of the original state of who you are. That was very nice. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Enjoy your evening.